one stretch that really hurt them where Boston passes up a wide open three. And you could see the frustration from Caitlin Clark. That was a devastating sequence, followed by a couple of clean misses from Caitlin and a clean miss from Kelsey. But it was this play, like I said, it was basically a replay of that play you just saw, where Caitlin has the defense. You see her drawing multiple defenders. That's a common theme. Nice little pass to Boston, who doesn't shoot it and travels instead.
There was another big story around the game as protesters and counter-protesters gathered outside the arena. People were also still talking about Sophie Cunningham's recent public comments. Before the game, Cheryl Reeve and Sophie Cunningham were seen talking with each other. We do not know what they discussed, and it would be wrong to guess. But the video showed what looked like a polite and respectful conversation between two people who have been at the center of a heated public debate. That moment mattered because it showed that people can disagree without creating another public argument. They talked before the game, and once the game started, they focused on basketball. The controversy is not going away because the issues involved are much bigger than one game. People will continue to have different opinions about fairness, inclusion, league policies, and how the WNBA handles these topics. Those discussions should be based on facts instead of personal attacks. On this day, though, the basketball game deserved to be the main focus. Minnesota and Indiana played one of the most exciting games of the season. Miles had an incredible first half, while Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aliyah Boston helped Indiana fight back. Minnesota responded with great teamwork and stayed calm under pressure to earn the win. The conversation before the game did not solve the larger debate, but it showed that people can speak face-to-face without turning every moment into a public spectacle. That does not mean every disagreement has been settled. It simply shows that respectful conversations are still possible even when public debates become heated. After that, the game began, and the players gave everyone something real to watch and judge on the court.
Sign me up for Fever Lynx every time. That looked like maybe the two best teams in the league to me, trading blows. Olivia Miles continues to just make a statement as a rookie. There's a reason she's in the MVP conversation as well, but she's got a lot of help and depth on that Lynx team. Nafisa Collier just came back. That's deadly. Kayla McBride is a deadly shooter. Courtney Williams is a master in the mid-range. And the
Minnesota earned the win and deserves the credit. The Lynx have now won 10 games in a row because they have a deep roster, talented stars, and an offense that can adjust to different defenses. Nafisa Collier's return makes the team even stronger, and Miles adds another dangerous scoring and playmaking option from the guard position. Indiana also showed something important. The Fever still have weaknesses, but they are a team that can cause problems for anyone. They need another strong wing defender, better rebounding, and more consistent scoring from players outside of Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aliyah Boston. Lexi Hull needs to become more consistent, Sophie Cunningham needs to impact games even when her shots are not falling, and the bench has to contribute more instead of depending on the stars to do everything. These are important issues that could decide a playoff series against a team like Minnesota. At the same time, Indiana has real strengths. Caitlin Clark's improved mid-range game makes her much harder to defend. Kelsey Mitchell's scoring and constant movement stretch opposing defenses, while Aliyah Boston's all-around game creates difficult matchups in the paint. When those three are playing well together, the Fever can produce offense at a championship level. The biggest question is whether the rest of the roster can provide enough support before the stars reach their limits. Minnesota has the advantage of having both star power and great depth. Indiana's advantage is that its three biggest stars can score so quickly that they can erase almost any deficit. That is why this matchup is so exciting and why fans will want to see these teams play again. The Lynx won this game because they rebounded better, played a more balanced game, and executed well in the final minutes. The Fever, however, showed that they have the talent to make the next meeting much more competitive. So, what do you think? Is Minnesota simply the better and more complete team, or could one more reliable player help Indiana turn this matchup around in a playoff series? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button and subscribe for more basketball analysis.
Clark had a solid overall game, but they had a tough schedule coming in, traveling from Portland late Friday to play the Lynx on Sunday, and it wasn't quite enough. And when I say the schedule thing, that is not an excuse or anything. I bring that up all the time when we're talking. I said the same thing for the Aces when they had a tough schedule going into the game where they got smacked by the Fever. But when you play late on the West Coast, you travel to Minnesota and you play an early game on Sunday versus a team that hadn't played on Thursday, at least since Thursday, that's a real advantage.
The loss was not caused by one travel, one missed shot from Caitlin Clark, or one missed shot from Kelsey Mitchell. It happened because of everything that built up throughout the game. Every missed rebound, every empty possession from the supporting players, and every defensive mistake made the final minutes even more difficult. By the time the Fever fought their way back, they had no room left for any mistakes. Championship teams build enough of a cushion to survive one bad play or one missed shot. Indiana is not at that point yet. The Fever have the talent to compete with the best teams, but they still need to improve in the small areas that decide close games.
Rebounding department, I think in this game, it was 33-23. The Lynx out-rebounded the Fever. That may have been the difference in the game, considering both teams were out of control. Offensively, both teams shot 57% from the floor in this one. But, the Fever don't quite have the depth of the Lynx either. I just mentioned Courtney Williams and McBride and Fee and Miles. Natasha Howard was also in double figures. For the Fever, it was the big three doing all the heavy lifting. 71 points for Mitchell. Beautiful sequences from Indiana in this one, particularly early. This play, one of the best plays of the season. Clark takes it across, gives it up to Boston, swings it out to Mitchell. Cash. That's just as pretty as basketball gets, right? And Caitlin Clark continues to make real strides in the mid-range. They brought that up a bunch on the broadcast, but she is basically, she's outdone herself over her first 2 years from the mid-range just in this year so far. And that's how she's best game, but still had a very solid game in this one. You see getting to that spot, getting some distance from Miles and scoring. Miles had 23 points in the first half. The Fever couldn't stop her. Her layup package is crazy. They started trapping and blitzing her in the second half, which worked pretty darn well. But, they were down 11 at the half, partially because of what Miles was able to do. And when she's able to shoot the three, that makes the biggest difference. So this sidestep three that she hit right here, like, come on. I mean, if she keeps up that consistently, it's spooky. And then she's got such a great name from Olivia Miles. And like I said, when you get Nafisa Collier back, who's a perennial MVP candidate, and you can mix that in, that is just tough to deal with, especially when you also have Courtney Williams, who is lethal in her own right. And here you see Miles is able to get the ball to Fee up top, and Fee is a real shooter too. So the Lynx are the league leaders for a reason. 5 games in a row coming into this one. Olivia Miles barely scored in the second half, but she did have this big bucket late and gets the and one on this play. Drives right on Kelsey Mitchell. Timpson tries to come over to help. And one, another finish on the layup. And Miles, those finishes on the layup, she's so consistent in finishing there. But despite all that, despite getting out rebounded, despite not really getting anything from anybody but the big three, Lexi Hull she's been MIA. She showed up a little bit in the second half finally. Sophie Cunningham only hit one shot. They barely got anything from anybody not named Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aliyah Boston, and they were right there. Encouraging overall if you're the Indiana Fever. I would say, come at me, bro. But that's what I would say, because Caitlin Clark is playing the best basketball of her career. Kelsey Mitchell is completely unstoppable. They still have Aliyah Boston. They get anything from anybody else. They shore up the defense a little bit. They grab a couple more boards, and they have an even schedule situation, unlike this one with the quick turnaround against the Lynx. The Fever can beat anybody. And you saw that, late as they were able to come back. Mitchell scored the whole time, right? Like, she had a great game scoring, as she has really all season long. But the Fever get some big buckets late on Caitlin Clark assists. She gets the ball to Boston here for the three. We'll get back to that in a second, because there was basically a replay of that play that Boston messed up on, that cost them a little bit. And then that backdoor cut that we're so familiar with to Kelsey Mitchell right there. And the Fever are within 2 late in this game, despite one stretch that really hurt them, where Boston passes up a wide open 3. And you could see the frustration from Caitlin Clark. That was a devastating sequence, followed by a couple of clean misses from Caitlin and a clean miss from Kelsey. But it was this play, like I said, it was basically a replay of that play you just saw, where Caitlin has the defense. You see her drawing multiple defenders. That's a common theme. Nice little pass to Boston, who doesn't shoot it and travels instead. And that's a turnover. You see the score right there. 3 puts the Fever ahead. Then Caitlin missed a couple clean looks from 3 herself. That was one of them. That was cleaner than the next one even, but she just missed them. It happens. She missed this one too. And then Kelsey Mitchell winds up missing one as well, in that same sort of sequence, or they would have been right there again. Kelsey gets a really, I would say that was an encouraging game for the Indiana Fever and an encouraging game for the WNBA, if that's a potential playoff kind of matchup. The subplot continued to be the Sophie Cunningham stuff and the protesters and counter protesters and stuff outside the building. I thought this was interesting. I wish I could be a fly on the wall for this conversation. Cheryl Reeve and Sophie Cunningham were clearly deep in dialogue at one point before the game, which is how we all should be, right? That's how we don't allow any of this stuff to take away from what's taking place on the court and the floor and the action. But I just thought that was interesting. Not going to dive back into all of that, but found it interesting that those two met up and had what would seem to be a cordial. Hats off to the Minnesota Lynx. They're going to be tough for anybody to beat, but so are the Indiana Fever. They may not be perfect. They're certainly a flawed team. They could use another wing defender. They could use a little bit more scoring from somebody not named Boston, Clark, or Mitchell. But as is, they're still, I think, a problem. And I still think overall, that's not a loss.